Hey everyone, it's Matt, and today we're going to take an in-depth look at Hytale by looking at the announcement trailer and the blog posts and trying to come up with a summary of all the details that we know so far, as well as make some speculation on maybe some of the hidden things that we haven't quite uncovered yet. So this video is going to be split into 5 different parts. First, we're going to talk about the comparison of Minecraft between Hytale to kind of give a summary of what the similarities are. We're also going to look at the community and some of the modding tools that are available, and then we're going to take a closer look at the story and the lore behind Hytale, at least what we know so far. And the last part is going to be talking about the FAQ that Hytale recently released. They covered some frequently asked questions that gives us a lot better information as we head into the next couple months waiting for this game. So the first part is talking about Minecraft versus Hytale, and people are saying that that Hytale is Minecraft 2.0, and for the most part, I'd agree with them. I think they both have similar concepts, and Hytale is definitely based on Minecraft, but it also offers a lot more features that I think a lot of Minecraft players have been really looking for something like this for a very long time. And so, to start off with the similarities between the two games, both of them have that iconic voxel block-based art style that Minecraft made so popular, and they both have worlds that are completely randomly generated, and they both have the sandbox element where you can completely destroy and replace blocks all throughout the world as far as you can see. And of course they have their own separate survival and creative modes, as well as some advanced gameplay features like farming and resource collecting. And then they also have weapon and item crafting, which is a pretty important element. And they both feature NPCs, or non-playable characters. These can include anything from passive farm animals to human characters that you can interact with and trade with, all the way up to the enemies or the mobs that you have to fight against. Both of them have those aspects. They both have transportation methods, where Minecraft has the horses and the boats. Hytale has even alluded to things like hot air balloons and other creative ways of traveling around that we've seen. And both of them have some version of a story mode. Minecraft's is technically kind of like off to the side. It's defeating the Ender Dragon, but it's never really explained that that's kind of the objective when you spawn into the world. I think with Hytale, they do have a storyline, and we're not really sure how it's going to play out yet, but they will have one that I think has a more direct purpose and actually has missions to help you progress through it. And of course, between the two of them, they both have excellent community servers. So they both feature mini games and community areas online that players can join in. And both of these should be given credit to Hypixel. Hypixel makes both the Minecraft really cool community servers, as well as developing Hytale. So Hypixel should get credit for both of these things. Now, beyond those things, Hytale not only has the features that we just mentioned, but also adds a lot more. These could be simple things like carrying a torch. For the longest time, Minecraft players have always wanted to just be able to take the torch and carry it with them instead of having to place one on every single wall. Or a map. You can install mods, of course, to have a map, but the only other way of navigation in Minecraft was using a compass and then using like a piece of paper to do a map, which not many players were willing to do. They didn't want to have to modify their Minecraft game in order to get them. They just wanted that to be in the base game. So those are really trivial, but they're super monumental. And there's also advanced things like being able to place buildings in creative mode. Instead of building things block by block, being able to just mass produce things and place them all at one time. It makes things so much faster. And also with Hytale, there's built-in character customization. Where in Minecraft, you had to go to a website in order to upload it. This is built into the game, and I think it might also revolve around what items you collect in game as well. And then another bit is the deeper story. Like I mentioned, Minecraft has the End Dragon, but there's no directive on how to get there. But we're pretty sure that Hytale's story is going to be very direct, and it's going to have a flow to it and kind of a mission objective mindset to it, which I think is really important for the game to succeed, not only to meet players' expectations, but to have longer longevity for people to enjoy it. The other bit is the character classes. So in Minecraft, you're just this person, but in Hytale, you're going to be able to have weapons specific to a class that's going to help you flesh out the gameplay that you want to play. And another big part is the boss or the mini bosses that Hytale is going to have. So in Minecraft, there's the Wither Skulls and there's the Ender Dragon, but there's not really a penultimate boss that you have to fight. The only way to increase the difficulty is just increase the number of mobs that happen to be around. But Hytale is going to have specific bosses that are tailored to have attacks or movements or behaviors that you have to intellectually figure out how to defeat them and team up with your friends to cooperate and figure out the best way to take it down. And then on top of that, you also get to take advantage and loot whatever treasure that monster is holding. So I think that adds to that role-playing aspect of Hytale, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And on top of that, there's going to be party systems within Hytale. So when you're traveling with a group, you can all join as one group together and enjoy the co-op experience as a collective. And the last bit is the expansive community modding tools. Hytale is going to have so much built-in creativity options. This is something we haven't seen in a lot of games for a really long time, but you're going to be able to change the game assets, you're going to be able to do 3D modeling and all sorts of stuff, but we're going to get into those details in part 3 coming up soon. So that's part 1. Part 2, now we're going to talk about kind of the core gameplay aspects of what we know is going to be in Hytale so far. So as far as we know, there are 3 main pillars that Hytale kind of classifies as being part of the game. There's the adventure mode, there's the mini games, and then there's the modding tools. So the adventure mode is just the survival mode that we know and love, and it still has that sandbox creativity aspect, but then it also introduces the dungeon crawling, role-playing game looting system aspect, which is going to be really cool as well. And if you're familiar with Hypixel's minigame Minecraft servers, we're going to have the same kind of thing, but just adapted for Hytale. There's going to be a really cool community minigame server to take advantage of as well. And on top of the single player and the multiplayer, the third core aspect is that modding capability. Like I've said, there's so many tools that are going to help content creators and even players just unleash their creativity and make so many cool things, but again, we'll cover that in a second. So the rest of part 2 is going to talk about adventure mode specifically, and the biggest aspect of it has to be the role-playing component. It seems that you can choose whatever role you want to play, and this can be anything from as simple as just being a settler or a farmer, all the way up to being a craftsman, and then even picking a class to explore and fight in the dungeons and lairs scattered throughout Hytale, along with the main story. Now, although we don't have a complete list of all of the classes that are going to be available, we can make some speculation based on the screenshots that we've seen. And from what it looks like, you can pick different sword and axe types that could be one-handed or two-handed, and you can even pick shields to add to that. So I imagine there's also going to be complicated combat skills that you have to learn to either use 2 weapons to do blocking, or use a shield and a one-handed weapon, or have a two-handed weapon that's really powerful. All those different aspects are going to kind of play into the decisions that you make for the weapons that you choose. And of course, there's also weapons like bows and arrows, and then even it seems like magical staffs are in the game as well that have different element types. And the element types go for different weapons as well. We see in the trailer, in the Yeti scene, there's also a fire sword. So we'll have to see what kind of element types are available to use. And it seems like acquiring these weapons will happen through 2 basic methods. You can either craft them, or you can loot them from dungeons or monsters. And as far as the crafting goes, there seems to be an extensive system where you can take the weapon and you can either experiment with it and tweak it to make it into something different, or you can take your materials and do complete guesswork and experiment and maybe even discover new recipes just by tinkering around with what you have. But otherwise, you have to know the recipe for that weapon in order to make it. And so I'm curious if they're going to allow you to share recipes, or if recipes are going to be things that are consumable where you use them once and you can't share that anymore. And of course, the other way is just to loot the gear that you find from monsters and dungeons and whatnot. But the last major component is the map interface. This is not only a very welcome feature in this kind of game, but it's also going to be pivotal in helping you find your friends and navigate the world fast travel gates that it looks like they have. Also knowing where your home base is, finding dungeons and points of interest, and most importantly, how to complete your mission. It looks like it's going to have icons that tell you not only where to go, but also what you need to do in order to complete those missions, which oddly enough is a feature that's sometimes missing in these kinds of games, so it's good to see that they've already got that. I'm curious how they're going to incorporate missions into co-op gameplay with your friends, like if you're all going to share the same objective, or if you're going to be able to split up and complete different parts as a group, or if there's going to be one party leader where that party leader has to be the person who finishes all the objectives in order for the mission to be complete. And even once you finish the mission, what happens to the loot? Do you get to split it evenly? Do you have to split it between yourselves on your own? Or is it just everybody gets the same item? We'll have to see, but I'm kind of curious how they'll develop that. And so that was part 2. Now we're moving on to part 3. Don't worry, we're halfway there. And if you've made it so far, keep with me. We're almost done. So part 3 is talking about the community servers and the modding tools, which, like I said, is a really core part of what this game is going to offer. So in community servers, I'm sure you can expect to enjoy the same mini games that you experienced in the Hypixel Minecraft servers, but just adapted for Hytale. And they mentioned something about competitive PvP. I'm not sure if that's its own separate branch, like a competitive fighting mode, or if competitive PvP is referring to the minigames. We'll have to see if they give us more details. But another big part of enjoying the community part of Hytale is customizing your character. So according to the interface screenshot that we got, it looks like you can change things like your hairstyle, your eye color, facial hair, your shirt. You can add a coat, pants, you can change your shoes or your gloves. You can even add accessories like hats, glasses, and jewelry. Even you can change your facial expression, which is pretty neat. And of course, now we're finally going to talk about the modding tools that Hytale has. And these tools are as simple as just plopping buildings into the world that you see, to really advanced things like completely changing the game code in the background of the game. Now, the full list of tools includes things like 3D modeling, filmmaking, live code scripting, world building, and extensive modding. And you can use any of these tools to create new minigames, make cinema movies, and even design your own world assets. Hytale is giving players access to these game assets, as well as giving a pretty loose grip on the content creation restrictions. So you have a lot of flexibility to just create whatever you can think of. And now we should be on to part 4. So now we're going to discuss Hytale's lore, or the story that we know about so far. It's kind of been a mystery as to what's going to be in the story, and for the most part, they're going to want to keep it a secret. It's going to need to be a surprise. But so far, we know about 2 factions in the game. We know about the Quebecs and the Trorks. The Quebecs are the little tree creatures that you probably saw in the trailer, and they appear to resemble trees with the little leaves on their head. And for the most part, we know that they seem to act like humans would, and they're very friendly. They seem to be nature caregivers, and they live a life cycle similar to the seasonal tree life cycle of spring, summer, fall, winter, where in the spring, the seedlings are born, they grow, and then age is shown by leaves changing, like the changing of the colors in the fall, and then dying is like winter with no leaves left. But as they die, they release seedlings to then start the new generation. And those are a passive NPC, they're a passive faction, so they'll be friendly and you'll be able to cooperate with them. Now, on the opposite end of that is the Trorks. The Trorks is an example of a hostile faction, ones that are going to attack you. And they come armed with different weapons and express different fighting behaviors. So it'll be a challenge for you to understand what the different types are, how they fight, and how you need to engage them. And Hytale also points out that the Trorks are a great example of what it's like to create a modular NPC, meaning the NPCs of the Trorks they're modular in a sense that they change based on their activity, or they based on their behavior. And so it's a good example of, if you were to design your own NPCs, if you model it based on this system, you can create really cool characters and really cool factions that they all have the same aesthetic, but they all have different functions and different behaviors. And moving forward, there's a whole another list of passive and aggressive animal NPCs. So you've got things like we saw the bunny and the fox, which are just kind of wild animals, to things like chickens and other domesticated animals that you can keep for your colony. And this goes as far as things like saber-toothed tigers, which are aggressive wild animals that you need to watch out for. And Hytale also mentioned a really cool aspect, which is these different animals have different behaviors that you should be aware of. So, for example, the saber-tooths will hide in the tall grasses and they'll hunt in packs. And so as you're traversing, whether you want to use that to your advantage to hunt them, or just make sure that you don't get jumped when you're walking through the grasses, it's going to be part of the experience of learning the world that is Hytale, to learn about these different animals and the behaviors that they express. And lastly, there's the bosses. These are going to be major parts of the dungeons and the layers that you have to search. We saw things like the giant spider in the trailer, to that huge walking monolith dude with the sword. And these are going to be really core parts of the game as far as holding that legendary loot, and they could also be really important parts of the story mode as well. For example, we catch a glimpse of something called the Corrupted Golem, mentioned in the mission line item on the map in the trailer. And of course, you saw the big, huge dragon at the end of the trailer as well. So of course, you can encounter any of these in your time in the adventure mode, or you can certainly use them as world assets as you develop your own story using the modding tools. And with that, we're on to part 5, the last section. So the last bit, I'm just going to talk about the Q&A section that Hytale released in a blog post, which has some really good information that's really important as we move forward. First of all, if you didn't know, there's a beta sign up. So if you're interested in trying out the game, they haven't released the date for when that's going to drop, but if you go to hytale.com and look for the little light blue button at the top, you can sign up with your email to get notified when they're going to release the beta. And then another big question that people have is Hytale going to be free or a paid game? And right now, Hytale's kind of in the air. They haven't decided yet, and I think there's advantages and disadvantages to both. But you should know that Hytale is also technically funded by a company called Riot Games. Riot Games are the developers behind League of Legends, which is an incredibly popular game. So Hypixel not only has support from Riot Games, but they also have the financial support as well. So we'll see what decision they make. And I also might make a video on discussing the importance of free-to-play versus paid games and how it kind of determines how the game kind of progresses in its life cycle. So I'll make that video later on. But for now, the other bit you need to know about is that usernames are going to be unique. So when somebody claims a username, nobody else can use it. So if you have a username that you just have to use, that nobody else can take, you should just keep an eye on the blog posts, because they're going to announce when they're going to allow usernames to be reserved, if they even do that at all. I'm not sure, but just keep an eye out for that if that's a really big concern for you. And the other part is some really cool news that the minimum PC requirements for the game is actually really low. Hypixel developed the game engine for Hytale completely from scratch, and they've actually optimized it really well. And so, according to what they say, you can run it on a laptop with a low-end integrated graphics card. So this is actually really cool, because it's going to give a lot more people access to the game who may not have the highest computer specs. And kind of on that note, the game is only going to be available for PC and Mac. They haven't made any indication that it's going to be for console, maybe in the future, but that's not really something they're going to be doing right now. And otherwise, that's about it. So if you have some more questions, you can always check out their Q&A page that they have on their website. And if you've stuck with me this far, thanks. I really appreciate it. And otherwise, you can subscribe to look for more content coming from me. I'm going to cover more of Hytale stuff once it comes out. But I'll leave you with a video that Hytale just posted a couple of hours ago that kind of highlights the fog mechanic that they have in the game. And it also gives you a little bit of a sneak peek into the ambient background music that they're going to have as well. So until next time, guys, have a great holidays, and I will catch you guys soon. Have a good one.